knew this, and we all have called it the battle place for, the last 2 or 3 generations. 100 years probably. And there again, we don't know why they picked this site for this burial site. It may have been a rocky spot that was not where they could cultivate, but...
Do you know what battle lived here?
OK Battle was the man's name, but I don't know what it stood for. It was not any kin to the battles I'm talking about. This whole hilltop is covered in graves, and some of them have sunk in enough you recognize them. And especially if it was burned off, you would know it.
And where are we at?
This is the Pine Level Baptist Church first burial ground. It began back during slavery days, probably in the 1820s and 30s, but they did not have their own church at that time. It wasn't until after 1865 that they actually built their own Pine Level church.
Gotcha.
And then we'll go to that cemetery next, where the church originally was. But this was a burial site for those early slave settlers.
Gotcha.
So many depressions in the ground, and there are some nice markers here. But as we look right here, there's a depression, and the entire hilltop is covered with those. I would think there's probably 100 or more buried. You can see it as you walk along. You'll step down in a low place like this, and of course there's one right there. Edmund Searcy.
Memory of Edmund Searcy, born 1852. He would have been born in slavery, died May 12th, 1908.
He's a mystery for me.
Well, he was 50-something years old.
So what's interesting about him is that in the what I call the hunting house, which was one of the Butler houses, I found a will, and it belonged to a lady named Mattie Adams, who died in 1954. She was a Searcy before she married her husband Leonard Adams, and her father, as far as I can tell, was an Edmund Searcy, and I was wondering if this was his grave. I have 3 census sources for him saying that he was born in 1840, 1845, and then 1849, so that's a huge range. This grave says born 1852.
Yeah.
So it could work,
Well,
but
no.
I was wondering if that lamb meant it was a child's grave.
No.
But no,
No,
because
you
it
can see
has
the
a
dates.
1908. So
He, you can see that they didn't know the month he was born or the day.
right, they
so-
only knew. And see, I don't have
About.
any death date for him. So if this is him, that gives me his death
Yeah.
date, which would be amazing. And also, there's family around who don't know where he's buried. But I've been struggling to confirm this is actually the father of Mattie Searcy Adams. So.
The last person was, I believe, Mr. Ed Smith, and he was buried in 1953, the year I was born. And there's one over there, little metal headpiece.
This is the grave in memory of Virginia Smith, born February 17th, 1887, died April 2nd, 1929, but the 9s are backwards. Yeah, with Christ in heaven.
I couldn't read it. That flashlight is, I've learned
He can tell you about
this.
this guy.
Yeah, it's an expensive flashlight, but it's worth it, I think. If you like
This
doing this kind of
is the
thing.
last grave right here. This one. Watch those fire ants now eat your hand.
Yeah, the fire ants right there.
Ed
where you put
Smith.
Right where you put the
Yeah. October 1953. What's that say at the bottom?
Looks like PAS, but I don't know. Passed is what.
Yeah, passed.
Yeah.
Like passed away.
I know his children here, all of his children, and that molested, no, that's wrong. Molested's wife is this guy's daughter.
Gotcha.
But I knew his children, grandchildren, all of that generation after that, you know.
Yeah.
And I've told them about it now. I had the first one that wanted to come see the site.
Oh, that's too bad.
There's probably some old sources over here. So many depressions if you get to studying it and looking.
Oh, absolutely. I see them all.
This is Richard Smith. And he was probably a brother to Ed Smith. That name has continued on down through the generations. Richard.
Richard Smith Jr., born February 2nd, 1888, and died December 20th, 1914. Gone to his reward.
Sally Smith, infant child of Sally Smith, Richard Smith, infant child of Richard Smith.
So children here.
These two. Deer hunter did that, shoot target practice.
Oh, really?
Not at the grave, but they had the target out here,
And missed.
and
That's too bad.
but at least it didn't destroy it. But even right out, you see depressions.
Backwards nines again on this grave. In memory of Jack, son of Richard and P.A. Smith. March 1st, 1901 to June 13th, 1923. And this is the infant of Zach and Sally Smith, age looks like 7 months.
Pine level, although that last, some of the generations
you got depression.
continue to vary.
You got depression everywhere. Yeah, you got a lot of depression.
That's probably what, like, unmarked 400 graves in here or something?
At least 100.
At least.
Yeah.
At least.
So where are we going now?
We'll go to the second burial site.
Second Pine Level
Yeah.
Cemetery.
After they built their first church, the church is gone, but the pillars are still there and the steps, so you can tell where the church was.
Gotcha.
All of this, while we were traveling, it was peach orchard. Everything you see in pine trees was big peach orchard. And the lake we're coming down here was built in the 70s to irrigate the peach trees.
Oh wow. What happened to all the peach farming around here?
This family just went broke, borrowing low interest money and then having a few bad years with frost and cold weather. It just didn't work and just finally lost it.
Gotcha.
And Charles Matthews lived in a little house over there. He had a house and they'd given him 4 acres of land. And we don't own the house and the 4 acres, but I do own the other.
Well, I would say that someone probably changed the lock without telling Mike, and Mike is doing what he has to do.
I'll keep working. I was kind of getting that one.
Yeah, I'm gonna let you.
I'll keep working on it.
I got a hacksaw. I can cut the thing.
You got a hacksaw?
Hacksaw.
All right.
That's next.
Yeah.
Plan A.
See these. It's
It ain't matching up.
Getting all the felons.
I know, what an exciting episode. That must really,
We got Plan B.
you're fully prepared.
There you go. Just hold what you got. Just grab it again like you got. They gave me a key, but I guess they forgot it was a combination, and if they told me, I forgot. There's my deer hunters.
Yeah. Let's see. We're breaking into your own property.
Yeah. Well, it's all right. They pay me well. Yeah, all of this hilltop was peach orchard. Because our cows used to get out and get up here, and I have to come get them, you know.
Yeah.
I said, there's
Might
no,
get a peach every once in a while.
I said, there's no lock that can keep a man off his own property.
I told them they pay me well, so I ain't gonna complain.
How much land do you own, Mike?
I couldn't tell you, the Lord had asked me, but it was in the neighborhood of 5,000.
Wow.
From here to the mill where I live,
Gotcha.
there's a few places or in around that paved road that I do not own. Right up here, it was the first little black one-room schoolhouse. I do remember the building, and of course it just rotted down. And next to the church.
How long was this a peach orchard?
Oh, I'm 70 years old, and it was peach orchard when I come along, up until sometime in the 70s.
So was it back in the plantation days? Was this?
It was cotton.
It was cotton. Okay. The peaches came along
Peaches
later.
came later. When I came along, it was sharecroppers.
Whoa.
That little old school sat right here in the corner. Of course, there's no sign of it at all. I just do remember it. And this was a main road. It went all the way down to the paved road where I live, and it came out on another dirt road up here near the new church, the new Pine Level Church. And that corner right there says Lum Sanders. He was a black guy, and he did rock and brickwork.
Oh, wow.
This is the first building they had. And Lum Sanders' name's on that concrete right there. He was a brick mason and rock mason.
Was this Willie's?
And that was some of Willie's
Oh,
family, yeah.
okay.
What year was this church probably built, Mike?
I would say 1870, right after the war. And it stayed here until up into the 1970s.
Very cool.
And they moved, because this was growing up in woods, planted trees. They didn't want to be down here in the woods, so they moved the modern church up on the 208.
And that, I was going to ask you, we're in the middle of nowhere today, but it didn't used to be.
No,
Yeah.
this was a big plantation in its day, the Baldwins.
Yeah.
And they had little tenant houses all over. There was not the typical row houses, but little tenant houses all over this place. Every 10 or 15 acres had a house on it, and they could walk to church. And the little schoolhouse right on the other side here.
An entire community in the woods,
Yes.
basically.
Yes.
Or an entire community here that's now woods.
And what happened was, in 1906, when the railroad came through and Junction City became a city, there were lots of jobs. And so most of the blacks and whites moved off the farm to Junction City to work.
Gotcha. The name is the name of the fella that did all the brickwork here.
No kidding. Mike, what's the guy's name on the stone? Huh? Lum Sanders. Lum Sanders. Lum, L-U-M.
Is it?
That's
I'm
the
looking
S.
at it upside
You're
down.
looking at it
so,
upside down.
Yeah.
Again, over there where you
Oh, I see.
L.
Lum, L-U-M. Yeah, Lum S.
Do you have your light?
Joy has her light.
But you can see how big it
There we
was.
go.
You can see how big it was. Yeah, because
How about
these
that?
stones back here, that's the back step. Oh, okay, that's the back step.
I've got one truck.
In the 1970s, 1970s. Were they still using it? Yes. And my granddad, they would invite the whites to come to church, like when they had a special
Oh, like a revival?
revival meeting.
Ah.
And my granddad and his age group would come up here and visit the church.
The singing was the best.
Enjoy the singing, you know.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Had no piano, just made music with the feet and the hands.
Yeah, yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
And the baptismal pool is right out here.
And it was very fire and brimstone. I remember that.
It was probably made out of stone, wasn't it, or brick?
It's concrete,
It's concrete, okay.
but it's a lot of years. It wasn't.
Right.
Because they used to baptize at the mill, about Mill Pond.
Okay.
Even after they moved the church up to the highway up there, the minister, preacher, would come and baptize at the mill.
That part road mill.
Watch these thorn bushes. It's what's so interesting how dry it is. This baptismal pool never dries up.
Oh, really?
I've been up here, I've never been here that it was dry. Now explain that.
Well, Larry, you're looking.
Can you believe this?
That is.
I've never been here, I don't care how dry it is, there's water in this pool.
So,
Cool.
so they built a box around a spring here.
See what it says on there? See, it's got something on there.
There's Reverend Wholesome.
Reverend Wholesome.
He was a preacher for 50 years, probably.
How cool is that?
How deep is that now?
Yeah.
Well, let's find out.
Got a stick?
What?
There you go.
Are you kidding? Oh my God. Do not use me as your test case. So just enough.
I love that. Reverend
Deep
Wholesome.
enough to baptize.
Reverend Wholesome.
Reverend.
And he would come to visit, and they'd all of them would bring out a ham and give him,
Oh, really?
or some vegetables or something, that
Yeah.
they had. Go in there and get Wholesome a ham, Gertrude. Is there a date on it?
No, I think that's the S.
I think that's the S-O-N.
Yeah.
But they quit using this. I reckon they didn't want to clean it out, and they would come over to the mill pond, because we swam over there and kept it clean, and would baptize there.
Are you talking about the one that Leonard Adams?
No, at my place, my house.
Oh, the gristmill at your house. Okay.
And so I think, Dan, you were talking about this is spring fed? Probably.
It would.
But you wouldn't have ever thought about it as dry as this ground is and sandy, that there would be water here.
Gosh.
In 1989. Wow. Look at this veteran's grave over here. Ralph Adams, U.S. Army, World War II, March 22nd, 1922 to January 1st, 1984. And back here, this is surprising. I mean, you've seen that we are in what's the middle of nowhere today. This is a burial from 2012, and this lady was almost 100 years old. She died just short of 100, born July 4th, 1912, and died January 5th, 2012. Annie Hinton. She's buried beside Norris Hinton. He was private U.S. Army, World War I. He was born in 1902 on June the 15th, and he died June 24th, 1978. Now, something that I've noticed a lot is people who died in their birth month. Dan, here's one of these graves that we've seen quite a bit over in Harris and Summitobbit County.
One of the locally made concrete headstones. That one's dated 1971.
It says Sellers on top, Mr. Edgar Robinson, March 1st, 1971.
Emmanuel Dunn worked for the Baldwin, and he lost his hand in the cotton gin.
Oh.
He was one arm, but he could do as much work as most two-handed men.
Now, is Willie Franks buried out here?
Yeah, Willie Frank's buried right here by Gertrude. That was his stepmama. His real mama gave him away because he was blind. and gave him to her brother who didn't have any children. And they raised him and kept him till they died, and then he came and lived with us for about 20 years.
But he never married, right?
No, never had any children.
But Edna kind of cooked for him and everything, right?
Edna looked after him.
No, Cersei. My dear husband.
And they's all the way down there. It's old sunk-in graves. Like I say, when they left that hill over there where we were, they built this church and they started burying here. And they stayed here until the 70s when they moved and built another church.
Gotcha. And they moved from here because you said it was growing up.
Growing up in woods, and they had nice cars, and they didn't want to come through the bushes in the woods like we did.
Right. So from
Back then they walked. Most of them walked here.
Gotcha, yeah. So in the 1870s, there was a large community here.
Yeah.
By the 1970s, it was becoming what we see today is just woods.
Exactly. Adam A. Smith. Smith, Thurston's, and Durham.
Well, you can really see that one. 1939, she died. She was born 1899.
Another veteran over there.
This is little baby's grave. Oh, an old wooden marker. This is a rare sight to see. Here, a wooden marker that's still intact. Has lasted, a long time.
TJM.
It's a really unique stamping on it too. This is Lenny Sanders, private quartermaster corps in World War I, born March 14th, 1891, and died November 23rd, 1948. And they actually concreted in the funeral home marker with the paper still from 1948 that's been protected in there. What would that have been? Thomaston, Georgia.
I heard about him. I, of course, didn't know him, but I heard that name. Lynn Sanders this, Lynn Sanders that. And he was probably a brother to Lum Sanders that did the brick and concrete.
Yeah.
Bill,
Oh, that's cool.
died in 1934.
Watch out for that.
Lou, L-U-E, Bill,
Lou Bell
Lou Bell.
died November 15th, 1934.
1934. Age 50.
Hmm.
6, looks like.
Uh-huh. How about that?
Just carved into that piece of. And would this have been local rock or?
It's slate's what it is. Where you reckon they got that?
Yeah, that's
It's not local.
right. It's interesting.
Old gladiola flower.
Uh-huh.
I think the other one's just buried. Yeah, it's okay.
But with no D.
Oh yeah. What's the first
And no
name?
I in Pierce.
Yeah, Pierce Smith.
Pierce Smith,
Sleep on, husband. Sleep on.
1878 to 1947, and it's stamped "Sleep On, Husband." HUSBON. sleep on. That's interesting.
One Purse Smith, and Aunt Abby's buried right here. Grew apricots and strawberries, and she had 100 acres of land. And Daddy wanted to buy it. Well, she wouldn't sell it to Mr. Harvey because she didn't like Daddy for some reason. I don't know if he killed her cat or something, but anyway, Mama, she sold it to Mama. And she would sit up with my mama when she had us children. Aunt Abby would never go to bed. She'd sit in a chair and sleep because this purse was after her.
Yeah.
And she was dreaming, I know, but she thought it was hating after her all the time. And she never would lay down on the bed. She'd sit in a chair. And she wore Jimson weed leaves in her hat to keep from having a headache.
Was Pierce her husband?
Uh-huh. Purse Smith.
Where was her home?
Right where Mom and Daddy's house is.
Oh, okay.
It was in the yard. And Daddy didn't tear it down for a long time. And well, she tore it down eventually. Yeah, this was a happening place at one time, and you can't imagine what it looked like before pine trees grew planted. It was all open.
Yeah.
And everywhere you see pine trees growing was open land. Peach orchards, and then before that was in cotton.
Wow.
I remember the peach orchards out on the wire road. That was all part of Matthews too, wasn't it?
That's right.
So sometimes when we're filming graves in the woods, people comment on the videos and ask, you know, was it woods back then? So I think that that's a good example of how.
You
how
could see
things
the
change.
paved road from here. It was just that open.
Right.
And my granddaddy said that was born at the crossroads, went down here to paved crossroads. That there was houses along the road from here to Talbotton, and you could actually holler from one house to the next, all the way to Talbotton.
Wow.
See, in 1860, there were 16,000 people in Talbot County,
Wow.
and we've got less than 6,000, around 6,000 today.
Wow. So this is like something that I would drive by and not think much of it because it's a modern church, but
Right.
it's got incredible history that we've
Right.
seen today.
And that old grave, Ed Smith, that we saw, his daughter's buried here.
Gotcha.